Start. Tape 2 transcript.
This is Agent Carter Bennett, continuing information gathering interviews for case number 446-A. The date is September the 3rd. This is interview number 2. I'm here with, Miss Janet Fry. I'm sorry, Miss Fry. Could you please speak into the microphone? Yeah, sure, whatever. Can we just get this moving? I'm ready to get out of town. Don't worry, I'm not going to cross straight lines or break parole or nothing. Just gotta get away from here. You're not a normal kind of cop, are you? No, ma'am, I am not. And yes, of course, I will try to keep this conversation as concise as possible. To start off, could you please tell me where you were around 10 p.m. on the night of August 28th? Yeah, I had been walking home, but by that point I was cuffed in the back of some pig squad car. Effers were none too gentle shoving me in there either. Picked me up at some BS stop and search. Found the needles and stuff I was carrying with me. Note: Miss Fry is referring to officers Daniel McVernon and Andre Holmes. Refer to document 33 for detail on law enforcement involvement in the incident. My apologies for interrupting. Please continue. Honestly, in a weird way, I was kind of glad to be in the back of that car. The rain had started coming down pretty damn hard at that point, and it was getting nasty cold out. Storm had blown in out of nowhere earlier in the day and had only gotten worse. Not to mention, I had a real bad feeling the whole time I was walking back to my place. A bad feeling? Would you mind elaborating on that? Sure. It was one of those feelings that makes you feel sick to your stomach for no reason. The kind that makes your neck prickle up and your chest squeeze in on itself, even though you don't see nothing wrong. It was a real heavy feeling. It pressed down on me, getting worse as the night went on and got darker. You know, operative or whatever the effing word is. Oppressive? Yeah, that's the one. Oppressive. Like something is tightening around you and there's nothing you can do to get away. So, anyway, I'm in the back of the squad car and we're driving towards downtown so this a-hole can throw the book at me. The cop's driving real slow on account of the storm, which is just piss and rain at this point. Coming down in heavy sheets that make it hard to see any more than 5 feet in front of the car, and beating on the roof like a bunch of tap dancers wearing combat boots. His partner keeps messing with the heater like he can't get himself comfortable. It's probably 10:30 or so, and we're halfway to the station when these calls start coming in over the radio. They start off slow, the lady on dispatch just doing her thing. A call coming in maybe every 9-10 minutes. Possible break-in at 2445 Poplar Avenue. Any units nearby, please respond. Please be advised, blackout reported on the 300 block of 235th and Ditch Road. You know, kind of normal stuff like that. But then the kills keep coming in, faster and faster. Like the station is being flooded with calls. And they keep getting weirder, you know? Like the kind of stuff that happens once or twice a year, not over and over again all in the same night. F-sake. I can still hear the lady at dispatch's voice calling these things in. Phone must have been ringing off the hook down there. She started to sound so stressed and, honestly, scared shitless, and I can't say I blame her. I remember her calling in stuff like reports of unidentified lights and sounds from the woods on the east side of town. Requests for animal control to help with the household pets that had gone feral. Just going effing nuts, you know? Calls for wellness checks came in a dozen at a time. All of them asking for the cops to check on neighbors whose doors were just hanging wide open and no lights on inside. There was this one lady who called in and said she had seen something big moving in her backyard. Her husband has taken his gun outside to check it out to make her feel better, and he just never came back. By this point, the cops in the front seats had started looking at each other kind of nervous-like, and that nasty oppressive feeling is setting into my chest again. And then the sky lights up in these bright white flashes, strobing above us like a chain lightning. That light was so bright, everybody in the car jerked their heads down and covered their eyes. I could see the flashes through my eyelids. The cop in the driver's seat slams on the brakes, and we skid to a stop in the middle of the street. Just idling there in the rain as both policemen kind of peer out into the storm to see where those flashes came from. It hits all three of us in the car all at once. Even though the storm is right on top of us, no thunder came after the light. So these cops decided to get out and take a look at what the F was going on. And all the while, I'm sitting in the back, just begging them to stay in the car and keep driving. I mean, when a girl who just got found with a felony amount of heroin stuffed between her tits is asking you to keep hauling her to the police station, you know something isn't right out there. They don't bother listening, of course. flipping on the reds and blues and stepping out into the pouring rain. I just sit there in the back, looking out into the dark. I can't see a thing through the windows, just sheets of rainwater crashing into the windows and rolling down in waves, getting lit up by the lights of the police car. The cops are just two dark shapes on either side, but as they step away to have a look around, they just disappear. And how long were the officers away from the vehicle? Couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. Felt like it stretched on for an hour, though. Sitting there in the dark alone, listening to the lady at dispatch call in more missing people reports. Then all of a sudden, there's that bright flash again, and a big dark shape smashes into the left side of the car where I'm sitting, bashing into the window hard enough to crack it into a million pieces. The shape bounced off, leaving a black smear that ran down before being washed away in the rain. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs as the driver's door swings open and one of the cops dives in, soaked to the bone with rain. It's the kid who was in the passenger seat before, and he's pale as a freaking ghost. He slams on the gas and all of a sudden we're blasting down the street. We're both screaming over the engine roaring and tires squealing, and we're fishtailing all over as he tries to drive through the storm. And that's when I see that the kid is missing 2.5 fingers on his right hand, just bleeding all over himself. His arm looks like somebody took a knife to it. Real deep cuts slashed all up and down his skin. So I start yelling like, hey, what happened? What happened? Where's the other guy? And he's just screaming back, he's gone. He's gone. God, it was like a nightmare. A bad dream, you can't wake up from. We drove out of town. The cop didn't stop, driving through red lights and past stop signs. Didn't slow down once. Sped past the turn he needed to take to reach the station and turned off his radio. The kid was terrified. I looked back out the window after we were past town limits, out in the pine forest to the north along State Road 14. Couldn't see a thing through the sheets of rain that crashed against the glass, and the woods were black as the sky was. Every once in a while, that white light would strobe in the distance over where town was a few miles away, kind of reflecting in the rain. Still, no thunder came after it. For a second, I thought I saw something moving in the lights, something big and dark in the sky. I couldn't tell through the rain, but it made me feel sick to my stomach just the same. All of a sudden, the cop driving the car skids to a stop again, killing the headlights and engine. We were just sitting there in the dark for a few minutes, the rain pounding around us. The driver is shivering in his seat and making these awful sounds when he breathes, just quietly groaning and rattling and spitting phlegm. He didn't say another word to me. He opened his door and got out. I begged him not to go, I really did, but he just looked at me. This awful oily black stuff running out his mouth and his eyes like drool or snot. God. His eyes had a look like he was in agony. He locked the car doors and threw his keys on the driver's seat, slamming the door and locking me in and himself out. Fuck. I screamed for him not to go, but he just turned and ran off into the woods, beside the road, sprinting in this horrible way like an animal that's sick or hurt. He disappeared into the dark and the rain, and I was alone. Just alone.
In Tape 2.